Hey everybody, how are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. From my heart to yours. All of yours. So, I wanted to talk here today about some tips and advice and how I have come to learn things through the experiences of one, learning through others from others' experiences, and as well observing and through my own experiences as well, and from those around me, what I've taken in and gathered and here for you today. So basically, there is no right or wrong way to do anything. But I am going to talk about that at the moment here, right now, about right or wrong way to do letting go. And when I say letting go, there are so many ways that you can let go. Literally any way that you can think of as a form of letting go is a way of letting go. And it's what is beneficial to you and what feels good to you. What I'm going to start with, though, are ways that I find are the easiest ways to let go. Now, yesterday when I did the video, I was talking about gathering things through your past and releasing them during the fall equinox with the energies when they switch over with the sun and all that kind of stuff. And then from there, allowing space to move forward. What that is energy release. Now, that's emotional, mental, as well as all of the things we don't recognize that through the emotional and mental actually affect us physically and come out in ways where they can be diseases, dis-ease of the body. And through understanding energy and how everything is energy, we recognize where there can be disharmony and harmony. And through releasing the energies of the disharmony is where you allow for more harmony in your life. And so I have found, and so have many millions and millions throughout time of others, and have talked about this throughout all time, about how we can come into practices of our own to best release these kinds of energies that no longer serve us, to make more room for energies that actually push us in the direction and allow us that feeling of more freedom, of free will and choice. Because I wish you to know that we always, in every situation here on earth, have free will and choice. Even in the slimmest moments that we don't feel we do, there is in fact free will and choice. And from those choices is actually what creates our life in the everyday and what we experience. And those choices are also how we decide to see things. Our perception affects our experiences. Literally, what we believe is what we perceive, and what we perceive to be true is what we believe reality to be. So when you recognize that we actually have full control and power over this is when you start realizing how much power you have yourself to really decide how you live and see life. And from there, each of us doing that is what creates life for the all, and what we create and see as what we experience as the world continuously, thinking that that's the way the world is. Now, I'll get further into that stuff about how propagation of stuff and mass media things that they talk about can affect our conditioning and mind, and how we can see things from there, and then how that creates reactions from the public in a fear-based manner. And we'll talk about that as we go along. But today, what I wanted to talk about is how to start feeling good from within. And one big thing is definitely coming into yourself and feeling at peace with things that you have not felt at peace for a very long time. Some of them we don't even recognize that we don't feel peaceful about anymore, because we've been fighting it for so long that has become the normal, and we don't recognize how much it still does affect us unconsciously or indirectly when it's very much present in our everyday life without us recognizing, because we've just put it in that backpack that we lug along everywhere. And that backpack, when you come to certain points of life, ends up being huge. It ends up becoming like 100 times you, because you're just constantly trudging around with this stuff. And what I'm asking you to release is those things, the things that you keep holding in that backpack that you don't need to carry anymore, that you can start to let go. So basically, there are many ways about in doing this. I personally feel that I felt it best doing when I was just doing normal things. So normally when I wake up in the morning, this is something I also self-taught myself, since I was young, was to wake up and tell myself what kind of day I was going to have. And I recognized that when I was young. I was still in high school, because I remember when I recognized the patterns of when I woke up and thought it was going to be a shitty, crappy day, it ended up being a really not nice day. But in the mornings I would tell myself that it would be a great day, it ended up being a great day. And the days I told myself that it might not seem like a good day right now, but it's going to become a good day, it became exactly those things. And so as I started doing these mind kind of, I don't like calling it tricks, but it kind of is because you start playing with things about your thoughts and recognizing what actually is working here and what isn't. And that's also part of the letting go. So basically, how I did it was in just everyday things. You can start doing things to a place where you don't think of them anymore. It's the same as like breathing and blinking. It's not like we constantly are like, oh, I have to blink. Oh, I have to breathe. Oh, I have to this. Oh, I have to that. It just becomes part of our everyday and who we are. And that's the same as everything else that comes about. I'm not trying to say that breathing and drinking water is like something else you do, because those are definitely essential for survival here in the human world. But I am saying that we are able to adapt and unconsciously, subconsciously start to do things when we start to do them a whole bunch, because it starts becoming just second nature to you. And so what I did there was I did things with the mind, and that was going through thoughts. So when I would be working, and I'm not trying to say that this should come before working right now in this world, because I personally do think all of human well-being should come before anything personally now, and I have since I was growing. But as a whole society, that's coming more into understanding how much that actually matters coming out into the everyday world, that by helping ourselves here, we actually help the all, instead of trying to do all that and then not dealing with ourselves because we don't think we're that as important, when really working on yourselves is one of the most important things you can do in life, because then that changes everything else. So basically, just by doing whatever while you're driving, but I'm not trying to say focus on only that. And like while you're listening to music, or while you're in the shower, or while you're, after helping customers, if you're helping customers, and the times where you're like wiping down the counters, or you're scrubbing this or doing that, whenever you're doing those kinds of things, those are times where, are you really sitting there just scrubbing the counter, thinking about how much you can scrub that counter? I mean, there's sometimes you do get into that state. I know I have, but I know there's also lots of times where you have lots of time. And this is when you recognize how much you can choose the things that you wish to entertain your mind with. Yes, you can choose to distract your mind with anything else the world has put before us, as the generations that we have lived in these, really last century. These were all distractions for our mind to get away from ourselves. But you can always bring that stuff back into yourself. And I'm not trying to say that you have to go super deep right away, but you can also go super deep right away. What I normally do in those times is when I start, I just kind of go like, okay, is anything bothering you? And sometimes you don't think there is, but as you allow your mind to trail, there are some things that start picking up. And my number one thing is start picking up on those thoughts, on your thoughts. Why are you thinking these thoughts? Why are you feeling these things? And the number one is to just constantly ask why. I know a lot of people get annoyed by the why, but the why is what brings you deeper into self, because when you ask why and answer and ask why again, it just expands and further, and it gets deeper into the core. What you start realizing when you start breaking this stuff down is that there is commonalities between things that bother you. There comes a core as to why is it that these 5 other things bothered you. It's because of this one core of how it made you feel. When you start recognizing how that made you feel, you can start understanding things about, or even asking questions about, why is it they made you feel this way? Why is it that you don't like feeling this way? Or do you actually like feeling this way, but you're just ashamed of feeling this way? Or do you feel guilty for this? Do you need forgiveness in this? Did someone else make you feel embarrassed in this? Are you not stable enough within yourself to accept that you do like these things and you feel like you need the recognition of others? There's so much in there. And so when you start to break all that stuff down, there are so many things there that can get released. And sometimes it does come into the physical realm of you actually releasing friends that no longer serve you, or recognizing that people that you thought were your friends weren't actually your true friends. And then you start recognizing too, like, why aren't these people your true friends? And it doesn't necessarily have to do with them. It also has to do with you, is because maybe you weren't being true to yourself. And because we're all a reflection of each other, you're starting to see aspects of those things reflect back to you your insecurities. And then it's working out, where do these insecurities come from? And it's just constant. So what I'm trying to say is that there is no right or wrong path towards these things, and that I feel that in whatever scenario, situation you are in, that whatever thoughts come in, to allow them to process. Don't just be like, oh no. Actually be like, why are you here? Why is it that you are something that is here with me right now? Why is it that I need to go through this? All of those questions, just constantly asking. And there are no wrong questions. This is something that I really didn't like in school, was because they would tell you there was no stupid questions and then make you feel stupid about asking questions. And for real, I mean here, there are no stupid questions. It literally is you allowing you to go through them. If you yourself thinks it's a stupid question, then that for you right there is, why do you think it's a stupid question? And then it leads you on to all those things. And when you answer all those things, what do you think about your answer? Where do you think your answer came about? Is that how you truly feel, or is that how you were raised to feel? Is that how you were conditioned to feel? Is that how you think you're supposed to feel, or how you should feel? But what is it that you actually feel? And this is all part of it as well. And from there, what I want to say is that you can do everything in one extreme to the other, meaning you can go from the most minuscule amount to the most extreme amount. There are people that might barely put in time in anything and yet still have extreme results. And there's other people who go into the extreme of like rituals and having to sacrifice things and all these kinds of things, and they also get results. And realizing that even all the in between gets results. So what that gives to you is that everyone has their each of us have our own unique path, and it's just the way that's meant for you. And that's actually what I actually found was one of the most beautiful things about being human and everything that we get to go through, is that literally with every single thing that's ever existed in the Googleplex, really, but let's talk about billions of people here now only for the last couple generations, because if you want to count all the people that ever existed, point being, that we can still have unique experiences to ourselves. That in fact, no person has ever existed twice. It's just the one unique life that you live. And it's all separated by the teeniest amounts that make you unique. And so in that life path, recognizing that your way to yourself is through your own way. Even if you have a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit from someone else, or pretty much similar journeys, but just a little bit is different, it's still unique to yourself. And that's so exciting, because then you recognize that you get to literally take the puzzle pieces of yourself and put them together in whatever wave or form that you want to, that you literally have the right, this is funny about right and wrong, but the right for yourself to express yourself in any way that you wish by being the human that you wish to be. And that in life, it's about phases. It doesn't mean that just because you're one version in life at this time, you're going to be that version forever. I know people try, but as you live and recognize, while time seems short sometimes, how long time actually can be, you recognize that we're always changing, and it's okay to change, and it's okay to make mistakes. Now, I don't consider mistakes wrong. I consider mistakes opportunities that you can learn from, and from there recognize if you wish to continue to experience that way. And that's how I look at every single moment of time. I look at every single moment of time as an opportunity to, one, be a better version of yourself or not, and then be okay with either of them, meaning that if today I feel like being the better version of myself, I will be. But if the next day I actually feel super not good and I don't feel like showing up as the best version, to forgive myself for that and allow it to be too, because that's myself too. And to love myself for that, and to recognize there really is nothing to forgive for being that version of myself, because that's who I decided to be in that moment, and it's okay. And because we have all time, it doesn't mean everyone is always going to see every single moment in time of you being however you are. But in these moments of time, we are able to create who we are. So, trying to make it more simple is, one, there are people that maybe don't think that they have the time to do anything. And that's okay if you feel that way. But the reason why you don't feel like you have time is exactly because you don't believe you have the time. I personally believe that we are able to extend time and that the universe works with us. So if we believe that the universe works with us, they can also expand time. And I'll actually teach you guys about this soon. I've done this with quite a few of the people I've worked with, and they have highly recognized how much you have control of time. Because if you constantly think you don't have time, everything around you is going to work in that way. Whereas you believe that you have more than enough time and everything works in perfect timing and all of this kind of stuff, that starts happening for you too. And it's really amazing to see that recognizing that mindset literally changes the life that you experience on the daily in every moment of now. And so what I was saying was that some people don't think they have enough time. So for the people that don't think they have enough time, it's going to be important for you to decide if you think you're important enough or if the world is important enough for you to take the time for yourself to do these things. Another one is recognizing that some people who take all the time for this, if this is what they want, it doesn't mean it's the only way. While it's a very beautiful thing, it doesn't mean that that's the way it has to be. Meaning that don't use that as an excuse of thinking you have to be like this to not even start your journey, because you don't have to be like that unless you wish to be like that. So again, no right or wrong, just what feels good for you, while also appreciating that others have their journey and their reasons why of feeling like that is the way for them. And recognizing too that humans have this thing where they feel like there has to be support for them to feel like what they're doing is okay. But all I have to say is, if you just trust within what feels truly good for you here, you are doing everything that is in the way that is meant to be for everything. Because we're all in this journey together, and that is the truest thing ever. So you can be someone who thinks you don't have time, and you can literally put in barely anything. You can just be like, okay, I don't have time for this. What is I don't like? Yeah, okay, let that go. And you know what? What is your intention there? Is it to let it go? If it's truly to let it go, it will go in some way. The difference between that, though, is no energy is ever wasted, okay? It is transformed. Point being is that if you put just a little bit of effort in, you are gonna get that back. I actually found that even with the littlest amount of effort, that the universe will give back 10 times. Meaning that with the little effort, you get back 10 times. With the huge effort, you get back 10 times. So really, what you do give in does come back in whatever way, form it does. So people who give in less might not see as significant results at the same time, because there's so much to this depending on their life path and what they want to learn. Some people do put in a little and get a lot back just to get them shooken so that they can start recognizing that this has something to it, to get them inspired to actually start making the choices onto taking this path that is best for them. So the next part about it is, if you are someone who doesn't know how to meditate and thinks that you need to meditate to get to these places, that's okay too. It's more asking about what is meditation to you. Are you thinking that you need to be that person that's like, floating in the air with your legs crossed and your eyes closed and completely blank of all things? I mean, that I'm not trying to say that is not a nirvana to reach, but at the same time, you don't have to be that person. You're still able to release things and not have to be in that state. At the same time, is that something that you wish to get to? Because you don't have to get to that. And another thing that we don't recognize is, we think that by saying things or complaining or expressing our feelings, we feel like we are doing wrong by doing so, that other people don't want to hear it. While that's true in some forms, but that's mostly because so many people are so full of things they haven't dealt with that it's hard for them to deal with other people's things. But when you recognize that you actually speaking about that stuff that is true to you, that you haven't really let go of or spoken of, when you share that stuff with other people, it actually resonates with them in a different place that triggers them to maybe be inspired to also wish to release that or to share or just to admire your strength behind it. And it creates movements within them that eventually comes into movements outside of them, just as you are doing. And one thing about it that I find interesting is that we tend to forget that all of us as humans all experience emotional ways of being, as well as mental ways of being, as well physical and spiritual. But point being is that we tend to think that not all of us experience all of these emotions that we do. And we tend to think that you need to be a certain place in life or have to be able to go through this, or you have to trudge to be able to get there. We have all these expectations of past that if you didn't do it like this, then who are you to say this? And if I didn't do it like that, then who am I to say that? We're raised to think that crying is weakness, when actually crying is strength. Crying is another big one. Is when you're going through this, and I'm saying about the releasing, some people might even be triggered to just break out into tears without even having really thought much. And some people might break out into tears without having really felt much. But it's because you're so full of all of these things that you haven't dealt with that these tears are just ready to pour. And my greatest advice to you is to allow these tears to pour. Allow those silent screams that want to come out. Or if you want to scream, then I suggest going to like an open field or something and just screaming, because oh, isn't that amazing? I'm talking about screaming and you have these beautiful children playing, screaming and laughter. Now that's the other thing, is make sure that when you put this stuff out there, it's with the healing intention. It's not about trying to get attention. Because if you're craving attention in a way, the question then is, why are you craving this attention? And most of that attention seeking is when, there's so many stories about it, and I'm not trying to say that people haven't gone through hardships, but when you break it all down, it does come into self-love. So when we're seeking outside of ourselves, it's always about that our cups aren't full of love from our own self-love. Because when you have self-love, that you don't need anything else to fill it. You have more to offer, and then that's allowing people and receiving love instead of trying to grasp at it and chase after it. So there's a lot of differences in these things. It seems slight. It's that fine line. It's just that fine line. So I want to talk about the crying. So allow that for yourself, as well as the meditation, meaning that if you don't know how to meditate, that you're still able to release this. So literally, it's just thinking. So the biggest factor in this, besides me saying the greatest advice is for you to cry, I think the biggest factor in all of life is intention. Meaning that even if you're having the busiest day and you don't think you have time, or being anywhere in between, or being on the extreme of it where you literally give your life to rituals and sacrifices of things that you think that you need to get to a certain place, in any of these, it's the intention behind it. Meaning, what is it that you are wanting out of this? What is it that your goal is at the end of this? Why is it that you're even taking these steps? Why is it that you're even making this choice of action? What is this formula equaling to for you? What is this plus this equaling for you? And from that is where everything comes. I feel that by putting the intention out there, it helps the universe to understand and then cultivate for you, with you, your life experiences and path that you wish to go about. And for people who haven't fully experienced this yet, I can't wait for you to see this. And for the ones that do, you recognize how magical it is and why we wish to share all of these things with people, because this stuff is real. Like, I wouldn't be here dedicating my basically entire life to this if it wasn't real. I've basically been doing this since before I was born into this lifetime, and I've seen more than enough proof and evidence on how real this stuff is. At the same time, it's not easy. I wish I could say it was. I mean, in one day it will be, when we start raising our children to be who they are from the moment that they are born, instead of conditioning and saying that you need to be like this to be in this world, and taking us away from our true authentic selves that we came here to be. But at the same time, you recognize what a beautiful journey it is to have to choose to be yourself. And from choosing to be yourself, that solidarity it gives you to hold frequency as yourself, as who you wish to be in this world. And I mean, there's all kinds of amazing in this. So even though it's getting into a half-hour video, tips are, there are no right and wrong, meaning that you don't need to be anybody else but yourself as who you are. As well, where you are in life is exactly where you're meant to be and need to be to get you to where you wish to go. Meaning that every single thing that has happened before you, whether it be, I mean, most of them I'm going to say are definitely hardships, because I don't think I've known any life to live without hardships. Even lives that you might perceive as not having hardships, there's hardships within them, or that itself is a hardship. There's so many things that I'll talk about getting further into ways we perceive life and perspectives that we see, always thinking that the grass is greener instead of appreciating the things that we have and why we decided to be who we are, why we decided to be in the situations that we are, even though we don't feel like we decided, and yet for some reason we are here. And the reason that we are here is really for your own growth. And it's your own growth in whatever way that you decide. And if you believe that everything is against you, you're going to feel like everything is against you. But if you recognize that everything is from love, and you are love, and everything here is for you, that is what you're going to experience. And you're going to see it and feel it everywhere. So, meaning, again, you're just meant to be who you're meant to be, and there is no right or wrong. So what feels good for you in that letting go? You don't have to jump milestones. It's about taking those little steps that feel good for you. So if it today is, you barely watch this and you want to go to watch TV, then go ahead and do it. If you do this and you listen to podcasts, or you do this and then you sit in a bath, or you actually take time to have a tea or coffee and think about this stuff, or you have a drink, or go to whatever vices that you consider to be bad or tempestuous and you do them. Why is it that you feel you are doing those things and doesn't make you feel good? And it's breaking down into the roots of where these things come from. And I just want you to know that you are more than worth it. We are all worth it, and it is such a beautiful thing. So taking these little steps in even just starting the path, everything is going to start attracting to you. It's like a magnet. The moment you step through that door, it just opens and it's all there for you. So again, in the intention, when I was asking you guys to gather these last couple days, yesterday, today, into tomorrow, it's about recognizing those feelings and thoughts. So from that, on the day you decide to release, does that mean you have to go through all of them again? I mean, you can if you want. But the way that I suggest it is, when you're going through these things, they create a feeling in you, a thought within you or something. On the day you're going to release what it is you wish to release, I just honestly close my eyes and cultivate those feelings, and just how those feelings felt within you. Meaning, did you feel it here, here, here? Where did you feel it? Bring them all in, love them, hug them. Literally, even just thinking that, like, I love you, I thank you for that, I see that. And I release you into the transformations of what I actually wish to experience. While I can't even thank you enough for what you brought to me, because so many of that stuff has so much juicy knowledge in it for you. The lessons that I call life lessons, because a life lesson to me is something that you recognize as something that used to bother you all the time, but you've come to another side of understanding about it and now have become whole in the understanding of it, that it doesn't mean it's not happening anymore. It's happening all the time. It just doesn't have the same effect on you. It doesn't hold you. There's no hook in you, because you've allowed it to go. You've forgiven it. You've seen it for what it is. You've thanked it. You've loved it. And all you have for it now is love and appreciation. At the same time, when you release things, it doesn't mean that you have to come to this loving, appreciative place about it right away. It just means that at this moment, it's done all it's could for you, And you may or may not be able to let it go or forgive it, but you're good with it right now. And you're just going to let that go for now and allow it to come back in whatever waveform that it does, in a way that you're able then, after gaining more tools and lessons, able to deal with then. And this is something that we're going to be going through continuously, because literally when you start understanding more the things I'm saying, you're going to see that everything has the same pattern. And it's just that expansive pulse that keeps coming in and going out. And it's so beautiful, that ripple, that ball of energy that is all our auras, it's gorgeous. Anyways, I hope I helped in whatever ways there. I know this ended up being way longer than I expected. I know I went about and talked about things in more ways than I expected, because I was thinking it'd be short and point form, but this is what it turned out to be, so I'm going to guess that this is what it's meant to be. So, like I was saying, in that intent, you can release just like, gone from me, or you can be like, ah, or you can be like, ah, or you can be like, thank you, or you can be meditating, or you can, anything you want, or you can really just have that moment of thank you, gone. It's just, there is no wrong way. So any questions you have in this moment, being like, oh, this, there is no wrong way. Trust yourself. In that meaning that if this way that you take that you're not sure of ends up being a way that you think it might not be right later, that has its own lessons in it for you. And if you're trying to be a certain way to get funny about it, in a way where you're like, oh, but if I do it this way, and if I do it this way, what do you have to say? I mean, that tells you about you as well. And there's so many things that literally reflect back to us who we are, just in every moment of our thoughts, of our questions, of the way that we choose to be in every moment of time, and to be okay with those things, because all it does is tell you who you are, and do you decide to continue to choose to be these ways. And it's okay if you do. And if you decide to change, it's okay too. And if you decide to do nothing, it's okay too, because every moment of now is there, meaning that just because you don't do it for these 100 moments, maybe on the 101 moment you do, Anyways, that was funny to me with the binary code. Anyways, I love you all, and yeah, I hope that this helped, and that you'll be releasing some things and making room for things that you didn't even know were possible, or hoped were possible, or wish were possible, and be actually living them, actually choosing to receive them into your life and to live them, because you recognize that we literally can live anything that we wish. It's all within our choosing. I love you all so much. Thank you for choosing to be here with me and watch this.